Alright, so next I'm going to finish off my page structure by adding a footer. So I'm going to open up a footer tag and I'm going to give this a class of main footer. And we'll close that footer tag. Alright. The first primary addition I want to make to the page is in the upper section here. I'm going to add an image for the hero image class. So I will create a new line in that div, and using the image tag, I'm going to specify the file path to an image I have stored in my repository. And that image is in a folder called pics, and the file is called logo.png. So typing the file path like so, and closing the tag with a front slash close angle bracket should yield an image after I've saved the file in the browser. There we go. So we have our first addition to the page, but this looks fairly terrible. So now I'm going to use some CSS styles to correctly lay out this area. Looking back at my HTML, you can see that there's three classes I'm concerned with: a section with a class of hero, a div with a class of hero text, and a div with a class of hero image. So moving into my style sheet, I will now start writing selectors and rules for these classed items. So these will be rules for items with a class of hero, and next I will have rules for items with a class of hero text, and likewise for hero image. For hero, I will specify a couple properties that I'll explain in a moment. All right. I've specified the padding, the border bottom, and the margin according to the specs. I have a padding that is top 0, right 0, bottom 40 pixels, left 0. I'm going to dial this back a little bit, and we'll make that 25 pixels, because I think 40 is too much. And then I have a border bottom, so that just means the bottom of the container, the hero container, has a border that's 2 pixels wide, it's solid, and it is a light gray color. And there's also a margin that uses the same syntax as padding to say that there's 80 pixels of bottom margin. So there's 25 pixels of bottom padding, and then we hit the border, and that's 2 pixels wide, and then there's an 80 pixel space below the border. So I'm going to save those changes to my style sheet and go back to my browser and refresh the page. You can now see I have a border line appearing on the page as I specified. For hero text, I'm going to set the width to be 50%. And for the hero image, I'm also going to specify that its width is 50%. Now, what that does is constrain the size of these containers in the width dimension, which is left and right, and between the two of them, they should take up the whole width of the parent container. And in this case, the parent container of these divs is this section, which has a class of hero. The container of the section, if you look in my styles, does not have a width specified, so that defaults back to the width of the next container or parent container, in this case the body. The body also has no width specified. It might be nice to have a width for our body, but let's take a moment and see what this results in our browser display. So I will make sure my files are saved and switch back over and refresh the page. You can now see the text has been cropped about halfway across the screen, and the image has been cropped as well, but since it wasn't wide enough, that's as big as it's going to get. Still not looking considerably better, so we have a few more rules to add. Switching back to my styles, I'm going to tell the hero container a couple things. First, that it needs to display inline, which changed the display mode of the container. Next, I need to tell my hero text container to float the left side of the screen, and I'm actually going to do the same thing with my hero image container. Now going back to the screen, I'm going to refresh. You can now see that the text and the image are splitting or sharing the screen real estate. Now, as my browser window gets a little too small, the image is just getting covered over, and you can see there's a horizontal scroll bar that appears at the bottom of my browser, which is a very annoying habit. And it means that on a mobile device, this is what my display is going to look like, which is pretty horrible for mobile responsiveness. But we're going to work on that in the next piece here.